American artists were regularly backed by British R&B bands, and a 15-year-old Robert Plant was in attendance at several of the shows, including a concert in Birmingham featuring the Yardbirds with Sonny Boy Williamson. Having already assembled his first group, the Delta Blues Band, Robert was by now performing weekly at the Seven Stars Blues Club in Stourbridge and was eager to learn from the vocal power and stage presence of blues legends.
Of course, for us it was incredibly exciting to not only see our idols, but to actually, play music behind them, badly in some cases. It was just unbelievable.
I was in the John Dummer Blues Band, and we know our stuff, we know how to play, so we were perfect for backing visiting American musicians. We did 3 tours, I think, with John Lee Hooker, and 1 with Howling Wolf. The agent arranged for us to meet him at the Roebuck in Tottenham Court Road and in the room above the pub. We'd gone there, we set up, we thought we were going to rehearse. But Wolf walked in with the tour manager and, "Hi, I'm Wolf," shook hands with everyone and, "Yeah, hi, you're great." And he said, "Okay, boys, play me something." So we played him a slow blues. And, "Play me a shuffle." So we played him a shuffle. Turned to the tour manager, "They're fine. See you tomorrow." First gig tomorrow.
The number's going out now, friend. There's smokestack lighting in the train.
It was absolutely wonderful to meet the band initially and then to play with him.
Oh, the train I ride on. Oh, the angels shine like gold.
He was a lovely, lovely man, really nice guy. Very father figure to us lot, He would always have quite a large whiskey before he went on stage. He said, "Don't you go getting drunk before we're playing. Don't go smoking that shit. That'll kill you."
Just like
Incredible voice, incredible presence. A very effective harmonica player. He was in control all the time. He knew what he wanted to do and he knew how to get it.
oh, the angels shine like gold.
Howling Wolf was one of the greatest blues singers of all time. Wolf had this extraordinary voice that, it's hard to think of anything else like it. These skinny white boys came along and tried to imitate it from Mick Jagger to Robert Plant, and of course none of them quite had the gravitas that Howling Wolf had. But in trying to imitate him, they created something new and different. But I think you'd have to put Howling Wolf, as a vocalist, you'd have to put him up there as one of the greats of all time.
Don't laugh at me. Don't laugh at me, baby. Don't be laughing. Don't be laughing at me. Bad at mine. Time, everything. Don't laugh at me. Don't be laughing at me, baby. Don't be laughing at me. You bad at mine. You bad at mine. It's time for everything.
And we did a whole thing with Sonny Boy Williamson, and I remember because we did that at the Crawdaddy Club in Richmond, and we recorded an album with him there. Wow, he really was the real thing. We didn't know, but of course, he was sort of like the Elvis Presley of the black scene. He was really, you listen to some of his stuff now, it's got such energy, such sexiness, such, you know, he was a big-time black artist.
Getting out of town. Don't worry, baby, getting out of town. You ain't got to call no police, cause I won't be back around. Yeah.
For us, he was a bit of an oddity, you know, in his stage presence and everything else. He had this evil look, he brought this two-tone suit, he had typical black feet that were, you know, almost as long as the back as they were at the front. He used to rock on his, you know, and look around menacingly. Drink a lot of whiskey, get very drunk, change all the arrangements. Sonny Boy was a showman, a black showman. I mean, he'd put a whole harmonica into his mouth, you know, hands-free, and play like that. Fantastic, just in his mouth. It was, again, a bit vaudevillian, you know, a bit of a vaudeville act.
One more time.
Plant told me a story about going to see Sonny Boy Williamson at Birmingham Town Hall. And I don't know, he must have been about 15 years old. And the way he tells the story, he managed to get himself backstage and found himself in Sonny Boy Williamson's dressing room. And as there was nobody else around, he picked up one of Sonny Boy's harmonicas and put it in his pocket. The coda to this story is that 40 years later, I was doing my own personal blues pilgrimage around the Mississippi Delta, and I went and visited Sonny Boy Williamson's grave. When we got there, we discovered that Robert Plant had been there literally the week before on his own sort of blues odyssey around the Mississippi Delta and the great historic sites associated with the development of the blues. And he had left a harmonica on the grave, as if he was giving Sonny Boy his harmonica back all of those decades on, which I thought was just a lovely, lovely gesture. And apparently he'd played, I spoke to him about it afterwards, and apparently he'd played Sonny Boy a little homage on the harmonica and then left it on the grave for him.
While the bands of the R&B generation dominated the charts, Robert Plant was attempting to make his way by performing around Birmingham with a succession of local blues acts. Though most of his repertoire remained standards by the likes of Muddy Waters and Willie Dixon, American music, shaken by the so-called British invasion, had reinvented itself, and Plant's ear again turned towards the Atlantic. The ubiquity of the Beatles, together with the groundbreaking work of Bob Dylan, had inspired a modern American sound that first emanated from California and came to be known as folk rock. As the genre matured from its initial beat leanings, more progressive Californian bands such as Buffalo Springfield and Love began to venture into wider musical territory. For Robert Plant, who had always retained a general interest in folk styles, the emerging milieus of America's West Coast represented the cutting edge of contemporary music.
Buffalo Springfield, I think, were the closest that folk rock came to spawning a group like the Beatles. Now, the connection might not be that obvious, but the Beatles had two great songwriters who brought out the best in each other. With Buffalo Springfield, the two main songwriters were Neil Young and Stephen Stills, and they complemented each other and brought out the best in each other in ways that John Lennon and Paul McCartney did.
There's battle lines being drawn.
And even though their recording career was very short-lived, in the records they did, there was a great deal of diversity within the folk rock template. They get into psychedelic music, country rock, even like a little bit of soul.
Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and a carrying signs. Mostly say hooray for our side. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
They fused